Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Alabama scored a touchdown on its very first drive of the game against Kent State, and Alabama never looked back. The Golden Flashes had two close scoring chances, a missed field goal in the first half, and a touchdown overturned by review in the fourth quarter. But in the end, the Alabama defense pitched a shutout, the 18th shutout of the Nick Saban era. Let that sink in for a minute. This will make it even sink in more. That's as many shutouts as the team has losses since Nick Saban arrived at Alabama. Absolutely phenomenal. And good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm Gary Harris, and we've got Pepsi Max again this week. All that great Pepsi flavor, 0 calories. Really, really refreshing. Gets us ready to go, Rodney. We got a lot to talk about. It was a convincing win for Alabama against, quite honestly, an overmatched Kent State team. And that was in spite of the fact that the Crimson Tide lost its starting running back, Damian Harris, on the first series of the game. Harris is questionable with a sprained ankle heading into this weekend's game with Kentucky. Good news is he did practice in a white jersey today. But the running game didn't skip a beat. Freshman Joshua Jacobs, 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. The rushing attack totaled just under 300 yards with 3 scores. Jacobs was not even on Alabama's recruiting radar until shortly before signing day, but he's turned into an important player in the Crimson Tide offensive backfield.
We found Josh a little late in recruiting, but we were happy that we were able to get him. We were very impressed with him, and I think that this is, typically a guy that shows great maturity and understanding and very instinctive as a football player, and I think it shows up in his play and how he plays, and it certainly has showed up in how he's developed to be able to play.
Well, in this day and age, there's not much that gets missed in recruiting anymore. It's very rare. But I remember you calling me a couple weeks out from signing day last year and said, hey, there's a running back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's putting up unbelievable numbers. He's under the radar. But Alabama is going to take a look at this guy. And you said, I hope they sign him. They did. And he's showing why, because he's really a good-looking young football player.
Yeah. Was a high school quarterback. His senior year, played running back as a junior, ran for 2,700 yards on only 179 carries. Gary, about 37 touchdowns last year. And again, he was overlooked. But, sometimes you don't always know the best players in terms of they don't have to be 5 stars or whatever. But soon after he got evaluated, Gary, all these recruiting services bumped him up to the number 6 back in the country. He's a very talented kid, both he and B.J. Emmons, the 2 true freshman running backs. And you know what? They may have to share the load this week.
Yeah, they may very well. And here's the thing about Jacobs that I liked watching him from the press box on Saturday. Instinctive, natural. I mean, it's not forced. You see the quick feet. I mean, he's a guy you can tell he's not really thinking about where he wants to go. He's just a naturally gifted runner.
Yeah, he really is. Like you mentioned, he's put on some weight since high school. He's about 20 pounds bigger than he was as a senior in high school. He's a very powerful guy. The thing I like about him, Gary, he gets those tough yards.
Yeah, he's a nice player, and depending on Harris's status for Saturday, could actually get the start against Kentucky. Well, Alabama will get a boost in the secondary and on special teams with the return of Tony Brown. The junior has missed the Crimson Tide's first 4 games of the season while serving a suspension. Well, the junior will be back along with redshirt sophomore defensive lineman Johnny Dwight. Brown brings a lot of energy to the field, Rodney, and his teammates are looking forward to having him back out there on the gridiron.
He's a really good player, and he's really excited to be back. I'm excited to have him back. He pushes me as a player and everybody else around him. So, when he's out there, he's having fun, and, we're happy to have him back.
He certainly has the ability to play. He's been an outstanding special teams player for us, so I think that's the first thing you'll see. And then, we'll work him back into the positions that he's played in the past, corner, star, and, see if he can, contribute in any way to make us stronger.
And he's back in number 2 now, in the number 2 jersey. But no doubt about the talent. He's a track star. He's very fast. He's physical. Great special teams player. I guess the key word for me in regards to Tony Brown is trust. You know, he's had so many issues off the field. You wonder if you can trust him, but there's no doubt he's got talent and experience. He can help this football team.
Yeah, let's hope this latest situation certainly has taught him a lot, because he is an extremely talented kid, very highly recruited out of Beaumont, Texas, no question about that. You mentioned he's back in number 2 again. Started as a true freshman, if you remember the Florida game at cornerback. And you know what? You know, Marlon Humphrey, this last game, you saw him kind of tweak that ham a little bit, that hamstring. And so this certainly is an opportunity with Tony Brown that maybe he could step in and play some, maybe give Humphrey some plays off, whether he played at corner or at the star position, because, you know, they could slide Minkah Fitzpatrick out to the corner, put Tony Brown in at star, and you wouldn't lose a whole lot because of the experience Tony's got.
And also, as I said, a great special teams player, so he can help there. And real quick on Johnny Dwight, you can't get enough defensive linemen. This is a young man that's taking advantage of being suspended, lost some weight, and word is that, you know, he may get some game reps.
Well, let's hope so, because as you mentioned, they certainly need the depth there, and if he's come around, I think that would be huge, no question.
All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television tonight. We'll look ahead to this week's game against a Kentucky team that's coming in with 2 straight wins. Plus, was Les Miles firing at LSU a product of Nick Saban's success at Alabama? We'll discuss. And coming up, we'll be taking your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. You can call us at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email address, TITV@WVUA23.com, or reach us on Twitter using the hashtag TITV. You can interact with us. Coming up on the show, we'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. We'll return.
I kind of hate it that a man wins a national championship, wins 2 SEC titles, and doesn't make it through the season. It is what it is, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Les Miles, what he was able to accomplish there, the number of wins he had.
Welcome back to Tider Insider Television. Gary Harris here with Rodney Orr. In case you haven't heard, and if you're a football fan, I know you have, Les Miles is no longer the coach at LSU. The longtime head coach was fired on Sunday, a day after his Tigers lost in excruciating fashion at Auburn. Now, this follows an offseason that saw Georgia fire Mark Richt, well, really before the season was over last year, despite averaging 10 wins a year during his tenure. Rodney, some people will say that this is a result of Nick Saban's success at Alabama, and when good isn't good enough, because the standard is Alabama, and that's what programs like Georgia and LSU want. They want championships.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And I think especially in Les Miles' case, you know, he follows Nick Saban in Baton Rouge and did a fantastic job. I think he won more games than, if I'm not mistaken, well, there you see it, the highest winning percentage in LSU history, won a national championship, a couple of SEC titles. And you know what? He beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row in 2010 and 2011, and looked like maybe he was about to take control of the series. And then in that rematch in the national championship game, Alabama wins that and has won 5 straight. And I think, you know, that's really kind of been his undoing, Gary. And then this year, I think they were hoping they would see a little bit different offensively from what we've seen in the past. LSU, you know, he's been criticized because he's so conservative, and the first few games obviously have not looked very good.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I think the guy's a class act. You know, I think he conducted himself with great class at LSU. I think it's Bush League to fire him 4 games into the season. I don't care what your reasoning is.
I agree.
I think it's Bush League for LSU, and they better be careful. They might not find a coach as good as Les Miles.
Just like you said, same thing with Georgia. You're talking about Mark Richt won 10 games a year, average being in the SEC championship every 3rd season.
Yeah.
That's hard to top.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for, Georgia and LSU. Well, we're getting close to October, and that means we're getting close to Halloween. So we'll bring back our Halloween-inspired segment sponsored by Atrox Factory. It is our horrific play of the game.
And now, the horrific play of the game, brought to you by Atrox.
It came in the second quarter, and it came from the secondary. Minkah Fitzpatrick just blitzes clean and pops Kent State quarterback Malik Mitchell. Minkah had a sack and a half in the game, and that is our Atrox horrific play of the game. Horrific for the Kent State quarterback, who hurt his hand in that contest, by the way, playing against that Crimson Tide defense. Well, early fall also means homecoming. This Saturday, Alabama has its homecoming game against Kentucky. Now, it's a Wildcats team that comes into Tuscaloosa, hey, riding a little momentum, 2-game winning streak. Now, those 2 wins follow 2 really terrible losses. They opened by blowing a big lead at home against Southern Mississippi in the second half, then got trounced by 38 at Florida. But give them credit. They came back to outscore not a very good New Mexico State team, but knocked off South Carolina 17-10 in an SEC game. And now Alabama is expecting a competitive opponent on Saturday night. Yesterday, both Nick Saban and Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops spoke about Saturday's matchup.
Kentucky has played their best in the last 2 games that they've played. Mark Stoops has done a really good job of sort of finding out who they are and how they want to play, and they played really well in the last 2 games.
They're led by arguably the best coach of all time in college football, and starts there. But what impresses you about them is their whole program, top to bottom. They do things right. They're extremely talented and they're very well coached. So there's a lot you could talk about what they do right.
Well, coming up on TITV, the Alabama soccer team did something it hasn't done since the mid-1990s. We'll tell you what that is. And also, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You need to go ahead and call in now if you want to get a spot on the line. 205-348-9882. There's the email address. You can also reach us on Twitter using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with more Tider Insider TV right after this timeout. A 2-1 overtime victory on Sunday gave Alabama its first win over Texas A&M since 1995. It's also the Crimson Tide's first win over a ranked SEC opponent in 2 years, and the first win for head coach Wes Hart over a ranked team at UA. Alabama's now 7-3-1 overall with a 2-1-1 mark in SEC play, and Alabama heads to Starkville to take on Mississippi State on Friday night. And are you ready to head to the phone lines?
Yeah.
Yes, we got a special treat tonight. First up is BT. BT, how you doing, man?
Good, GH and Rodney. How about y'all?
Doing very well. What you got for us tonight, BT?
Okay, Gary and Rodney, I want to ask that what kind of offense will we see with a new coach, for the Bama basketball? What kind of offense will we see?
Well, I mean, I guess you're referring to John Pelfrey coming in as an assistant because, Avery Johnson in his second year, they're going to probably run pretty much the same offense they ran last year. Now, you hope that they've increased the talent level and they'll score more points, and the offense will be very fluid. Obviously, they're going to miss Retno Basahan, who was a valuable offensive contributor, their leading scorer. But I do think in the second year, and with input from John Pelfrey, who is a former head coach in the SEC, that the offense, I do think they'll produce more points, right?
Yeah, I think Dante Hall, obviously, he's got a year under his belt. He was really impressive last year. Obviously, he'll mature, and you've got Nick King now in the program. Dazon Ingram is back, healthy, hopefully, so
all right.
What happens.
Thank you, BT, for the call. Let's go to Walker County and talk to Sammy. Sammy, how are you?
Thanks for taking my call, Gary. Enjoy the show, you and Rodney. My question is, it's a simple question, but I believe it merits consideration.
Okay.
They have enacted rules for the targeting in football, which that is great for the protection of the players. But how about the fans and the players? My question is, when are they going to start playing these September games at night instead of day games?
Yeah, Sammy, I mean, I know. Yes, this past week was just brutal. In fact, both home games to this point have been brutal. And 11 a.m. Problem is, the only way you can hope to get some relief is to have cooler Septembers or get a luck of the draw with TV. Because TV sets the game times. Sammy, that's just the way it is. And when you play a team like Kent State, there's a good chance you're going to get stuck in that 11 a.m. time slot. So I understand your point, but I don't know what else to tell you. Hope for cooler temperatures in September, or hope you get a break on the game times with TV, because that's who dictates what time you play.
The good news is this Saturday be a little cooler, and it's a 6 o'clock
game.
Yeah,
now that won't be an issue. If you're coming this week, Sammy, it's going to be cooler anyway, plus it's going to be an evening game, so it should be really nice on Saturday night against Kentucky. All right, we got an email we're going to get to, Rod. This is from Quintillion up in Charleston, Illinois. Describe the skill set and potential of Trayvon Diggs. Well, Quintillion, the potential is awesome. The skill set is varied. Rodney, this is a two-way guy who's already played both defense and offense this year. They got him a receiver right now, also special teams, only a freshman. You see his brother Stefan starring for the Minnesota Vikings. It runs in the family. This guy is a tremendous special athlete.
Good height, Gary. I like his size. You know, when I watched his tape in high school, I thought he was going to be an Eddie Jackson type safety. I still think he could be that, but he's so valuable, so many different spots, and he's worked at both safety and wide receiver here the last week or so. He's been almost exclusively, I think, at wide receiver with all the injuries and the guys beat up. He has an opportunity to really contribute. We saw him play more at that spot last Saturday, and I'd expect even more of him, you know, this coming game.
All right, thanks for the phone calls, and we're not done. Coming up, the back and forth of Mo Williams. Is he coming or going? We'll have the latest on the former Alabama point guard as far as the NBA is concerned. And more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there's the information posted on your screen on how you can interact with Tider Insider TV. So go ahead and give us a call right now, email us, or tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with more right after this. Former Alabama point guard Mo Williams announced on Twitter that he was coming back to play one more season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But then yesterday, prior to the Cavs media day, the team announced, in fact, that Williams will retire. That caps a 13-year NBA career that included one All-Star appearance and, of course, an NBA championship last season, and far greater production than most ever expected from the second-round draft pick that left UA after 2 years playing basketball for Mark Godfrey. All right, let's get right back to the phone lines, Rodney, and Rusty is with us from down in Demopolis. Welcome in, Rusty. How are you?
Hey, buddy, how y'all tonight?
We're well,
Roll
man.
Tide.
Yes, sir.
I just have a little bit of a comment, and what I want to talk about, some of his passes, they were very close. And the only thing that worries me is if we've been playing a team that had very, very good defensive backs, I'm scared a couple, three of them may have been picked off. I'll hang up and let's do your comment.
Well, Rusty, you know, woulda, couldas, and shouldas. I mean, you know, he played against Ole Miss. He played against Southern Cal. You know, they got good personnel, and he played very well. I understand. You know, every throw is not going to be perfect. He is a freshman quarterback. He is learning. But I think his learning curve is going to continue to grow. I've been very impressed with him. I mean, that's not to say he's not going to throw an interception or two. Most quarterbacks do. But I think all in all, he's made good decisions. I do think as the season goes on, he'll be going through more of his progressions. I think a lot of times now they have a predetermined route for him where he's going to throw the football. But I understand your concern, but I tell you, I don't. I think you may be nitpicking there just a little bit.
What's he thrown? One pick so far?
Just one pick.
Yeah, the one pick against USC. I mean, that's a phenomenal statistic when you're talking about a true freshman quarterback. There's no question about that. And I know some of the throws you're talking about. There was maybe one or two in this last game, and you know, that maybe was close, Gary. But at the same time, if he didn't think he could fit it in there, he's done a nice job, I think, of not really taking chances. So I think. You know, I think, as you said, I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's going to get better, too, Rusty. He's going to get better and better. All right, let's stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk to CB. What's up, CB?
Not much. How y'all gentlemen tonight?
Outstanding.
Now look, I know it's hard to look ahead. We got to play them one at a time. It's always that way. We never, ever want to get Alabama player hurt. I mean, never. This freshman quarterback's doing a fine job. If something was to scratch him up a little. If we got somebody ready, you know, we got Arkansas, Tennessee, A&M, LSU, pretty good run. If we got somebody could come on that field and take his place if he couldn't get out there.
Well, got to CB. Yeah, they do. They got two guys. Blake Barnett's the number 2. Cooper Bateman's the number 3. Both of them have played. Blake Barnett threw a beautiful touchdown pass to O.J. Howard on Saturday. You know, if something happened, unfortunately, to Jalen Hurts and he went down, Blake Barnett's come in and play.
Let's hope not, but, you know, again, it's always good to develop backup quarterbacks, and you talked about Blake Barnett. Gary, he's made some nice passes in almost every game that he's had an opportunity to play in, and, you know, Cooper Bateman has some experience. So really, you know, again, you would hate to see it, CB, but they've got some guys in waiting.
All right, Bama Jack in Northport, we got to go quick. What's up, man?
Yeah, I need the expert's opinion. What's going to be our toughest out of the 2 road games, Arkansas or Tennessee?
Well, Bama Jack, as we sit here today, they're both tough. I would say right now, based on what we've seen so far, you know, Tennessee. But you can't look over, you know, you can't look past Arkansas. They're all tough when you go on the road. Those are 2 tough road games coming up.
Tennessee got on a really emotional roll. I think you could see the impact their crowd had on that game against Florida. And but also, hey, don't count out LSU. I know Les Miles is gone, but you know, Ed Orgeron did a fine job when he was the interim head coach at USC. That could still be a snake pit.
All right, still to come. Former Alabama golfer Justin Thomas loses his stash on live TV, and our game picks, how we see Alabama versus Kentucky. That's coming up next. Keep it tuned to TITV. Well, Justin Thomas finished tied for 6th place at the PGA Tour Championship over the weekend in Atlanta, but it marked the end of the FedEx playoffs and the end of Thomas's playoff mustache. He got it shaved right there on live television. He finished 12th in the FedEx Cup final standings. What a year for the young man from the University of Alabama. All right, welcome back. It's time for our game picks, Rodney. Alabama, Kentucky. What do you got?
Well, I think, when you look at this game, Gary, Kentucky has played better. There's no question about that. But, defensively, I think they're going to have a hard time stopping Alabama. They're giving up, 463 yards a game, 205 on the ground, 258 through the air. I think Alabama's going to have success offensively, and I think they're going to get the running game going, 42-7.
Last week you picked it 45-3. I picked it 45-0 originally, but I changed it because I said, well, our picks are too close, and I made it 38-0. Well, I did get the shutout part right, and I was off by 10 points. You know what? I'm going back-to-back shutouts. I really am. You don't see many of them in this day, but Alabama's got 18 since Saban got here, so I'm going to stick with that 38-0.
Was that your first pick?
That is my first pick today. Yeah, I didn't change it up. But 38-0, I think Alabama gets back-to-back shutouts, and those are hard to do. Even had to get a little lucky against Kent State to get the shutout.
48-0 last week. I picked it 45-3.
Yeah, you did.
You picked it
38-0.
Okay.
But 18 shutouts in 9+ seasons is unbelievable.
So you're saying 19?
Yeah, I think they get number 19 on Saturday against the Wildcats. All right, well, we'll find out for sure come Saturday afternoon. Well, we just heard from the locker room, our beautiful shirts and ties provided by the locker room in downtown Tuscaloosa, home, as you heard, of the original Elephant Wear. Go by and see them in person or check them out online at locker-room.biz. They have got you ready. Now, with it being a little bit cooler, you can get in some of those great fall clothes that they've got in style and profile at the game coming up this Saturday evening for homecoming against the University of Kentucky. Visit them at the locker room. And don't forget, if you missed any of this program, we'll have a replay for you tonight right here on WVUA 23 at 10:30. And you can catch it anytime online at WVUA23.com. Also, a reminder, Crimson Tide kickoff comes up this Saturday morning live from the UA campus at 11 a.m. So that's going to do it for TITV. For Rodney Orr and our entire Tider Insider television crew, thanks for watching. Have a good night, everybody. Roll Tide.
Touchdown, Alabama. He faked the give to Bo Scarborough, kept it himself, went around right side, and trots in for a 20-yard.
Launches it to the goal line. Sims comes down with it, sets up Alabama here.
Joshua Jacobs, handoff. He'll go up the middle, and he's in for a touchdown. Joshua Jacobs.